Hello, people. So, in this video, we are taking a topic of pharmacokinetics, which is very, very important. So, what is pharmacokinetics? It is study of drug movement in, through and out of the body or what body does to the drug. मतलब बॉडी के अंदर ड्रग का कैसे मूवमेंट होता है, एब्जॉर्प्शन होता है, मतलब बॉडी ड्रग के साथ क्या करने वाली है जब ड्रग अपन लेते हैं तो एब्जॉर्ब करेगी, डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करेगी, मेटाबोलाइज करेगी, मतलब क्या क्या करेगी बॉडी. ठीक है. सो दैट इज़ व्हाट बॉडी डज टू द ड्रग and it is divided into four parts. Okay, ADME: absorption, distribution, metabolism and excretion. Okay, so first one, how drug is absorbed, then how it is distributed from the site of administration to the bloodstream, right? And then the metabolism, and the last one, excretion. So in this video we are taking the first one, absorption. Okay, so talking about absorption, it is movement of drug from site of administration into the circulation. So that is what absorption is. मतलब अपने ड्रग एडमिनिस्टर करी, वहाँ से सर्कुलेशन तक के जाने का मूवमेंट. सो बेसिकली इसमें इन्वॉल्व होती है बायोलॉजिकल मेम्ब्रेन, विच इज़ अ बाय लेयर ऑफ फॉस्फोलिपिड्स, कोलेस्ट्रॉल विथ एक्सट्रिंसिक एंड इंट्रिंसिक प्रोटीन्स. लिपिड्स की बाय लेयर होती है अपनी जो बायोलॉजिकल मेम्ब्रेन है. ठीक है, उसको क्रॉस करना ज़रूरी है. उसको क्रॉस करेगी तभी जाके एब्जॉर्ब हो सकती है ड्रग, राइट? सो और इसके अंदर एम्बेडेड होते हैं एक्सट्रिंसिक एंड इंट्रिंसिक प्रोटीन्स. नाउ इफ़ यू सी द टाइप ऑफ ट्रांसपोर्ट्स वी आर हैविंग. ओके, सो बेसिकली दो टाइप के होते हैं, पैसिव डिफ्यूजन एंड स्पेशलाइज्ड ट्रांसपोर्ट. Passive diffusion and filtration both are considered in the first category, and then second one, specialized transport. Okay, we'll see this one by one. Specialized transport is further divided into carrier mediated and pinocytosis. कैरियर मीडिएटेड मतलब कोई प्रोटीन कैरियर है, कोई मॉलिक्यूल है जो कैरी करके लेके जाएगा ड्रग को, विच इज़ अगेन ऑफ टू टाइप्स, फैसिलिटेटेड एंड एक्टिव ट्रांसपोर्ट. ओके, सो विल सी दिस, राइट? सो पैसिव डिफ्यूजन से स्टार्ट करते हैं हम. वी आर हैविंग पैसिव डिफ्यूजन एंड फिल्ट्रेशन एंड देन द स्पेशलाइज्ड ट्रांसपोर्ट. ओके, सो टॉकिंग अबाउट पैसिव डिफ्यूजन. पैसिव डिफ्यूजन में देखें तो लिपिड सॉल्यूबल ड्रग्स जो होती है उनके लिए मेम्ब्रेन को क्रॉस करना ईजी है, बिकॉज मेम्ब्रेन इज व्हाट वी सॉ हियर, मेम्ब्रेन इज बाय लेयर ऑफ फॉस्फोलिपिड्स, राइट? सो ऑब्वियसली लिपिड सॉल्यूबल ड्रग्स के लिए काफ़ी ईजी होगा क्रॉस करना. ठीक है, इसके लिए पैसिव के लिए एटीपी रिक्वायर्ड नहीं होता है. अब हम देखेंगे कि पीएच कैसे इन्फ्लुएंस कर सकती है पैसिव डिफ्यूजन को, कैसे इन्फ्लुएंस करेगी. तो इसमें वन स्केल अगर मैं पीएच चेंज कर दूँ किसी ड्रग का तो उससे 10 फोल्ड टाइम्स आयोनाइजेशन ड्रग का चेंज होता है. सो दिस इज़ अ फैक्ट विच इज़ डिराइव फ्रॉम इक्वेशंस. ओके, केमिकल इक्वेशंस. तो जैसे ही किसी ड्रग का पीएच चेंज करूँ मैं एक से, जैसे उसका पीएच था 2 उससे 3 हो जाए तो 10 टाइम्स उस ड्रग का आयोनाइजेशन चेंज हो सकता है. So that is how we can see that pH influences drug का ionization. Okay, so for example we are having weakly acidic drugs, example potassium, penicillin V. So these drugs, they ionize more at alkaline pH. So okay, so these things, these are facts which are derived from equations. Then the weakly, vice versa is there. Weakly basic drugs like atropine sulfate, they ionize more at acidic pH. Drugs are absorbed in unionized state. So ये क्या समझ में आया अपने को, ड्रग्स जो एब्जॉर्ब हो रही है, जैसे कि अपन देखें अगर एसिडिक ड्रग है एस्पिरिन, वो गैस्ट्रिक पीएच पे अनआयोनाइज्ड थी, मतलब अपने तो वो एब्जॉर्ब हो गई, यानी कि ड्रग अनआयोनाइज होगी तो वो एब्जॉर्ब हो रही है. ठीक है, and then the basic drug, for example atropine, it absorbs only in intestine because it is ionized. So basic drugs are largely ionized and they are absorbed in intestine, and acidic drugs are unionized, so they are absorbed at gastric pH absorbed. Okay, acidic pH. यानी कि क्या समझना है कि एसिडिक ड्रग्स आयोनाइज मोर एट अल्कलाइन पीएच एंड वीकली बेसिक ड्रग्स आयोनाइज मोर एट acidic pH. ओके, सो दिस इस चीज़ से डिफ़र करेगा इसका एब्जॉर्प्शन जीआई ट्रैक्ट में, कि वो स्टमक से एब्जॉर्ब हो रही है या इंटेस्टाइन से एब्जॉर्ब हो रही है। वो किस पे डिपेंड करेगा कि वो एसिडिक है या वो बेसिक है। नाउ द टर्म विच इज़ इम्पॉर्टेंट हियर इज़ आयन ट्रैपिंग। नाउ व्हाट इज़ आयन ट्रैपिंग? तो एसिडिक ड्रग्स, जब हम गैस्ट्रिक म्यूकोसा से एसिडिक ड्रग्स जो कि अनआयोनाइज्ड है उनका एब्जॉर्प्शन करा, ठीक है, तो उन्होंने क्रॉस करा म्यूकोसा को और वो सेल तक चली गई, वहाँ म्यूकोसा का क्रॉस करके वो वहाँ पे आयोनाइज्ड फॉर्म में कन्वर्ट हो गई। नाउ दे कैन नॉट क्रॉस बैक द म्यूकोसा, ठीक है, तो वो वहाँ पे ट्रैप हो गई एक तरीके से। दैट इज़ हाउ, फॉर एग्जाम्पल, एस्पिरिन डैमेजेस द म्यूकोजल सेल, दैट इज़ हाउ, बिकॉज इट इज़ ट्रैप्ड देयर। अब वो क्या करेगी, वहाँ ड्रग डैमेज करेगी म्यूकोजल सेल का। सो दैट इज़ कॉल्ड आयन ट्रैपिंग, जो कन्वर्ट हो जाती है अनआयोनाइज्ड ड्रग आयोनाइज्ड फॉर्म में, ओके, आफ्टर क्रॉसिंग द म्यूकोजा लेयर। Then again, we are having examples here. Acidic drugs excreted faster in alkaline urine and vice versa. Why? Because acidic drugs are more ionized in alkaline pH. So they are, if they are more ionized, they are more soluble and they are more excreted, right? Then the lipid soluble drug transport. जो लिपिड सॉल्युबल ड्रग्स होती है उनका जो ट्रांसपोर्ट होता है, दे आर मेनली पीएच इंडिपेंडेंट, बिकॉज मेम्ब्रेन ही हमारी लिपिड की है, ड्रग इजीली पास हो सकती है. देन वी आर हैविंग द सेकेंड वन, filtration along with it was we were having this along with passive diffusion. Okay, so filtration, what it is the passage, the transport of drug through aqueous pores or paracellular spaces due to osmosis. Okay, so here we are having osmotic gradient, and due to that the drug is transporting or going through the aqueous pores, okay, or the paracellular spaces. For example, glomerular capillaries, in that we are having filtration. Through filtration drug is passing, fine. And the lipid insoluble drugs, they can pass only if their molecular weight is less than 100. Okay, so then only lipid insoluble drugs can pass through these aqueous pores. Now the second type of main type of transport we are having is specialized transport. Okay, and then it is again divided into carrier transport and penocytosis, as we know that. uh, Talking about carrier transport, in this transport proteins combine with substrate transiently. They undergo conformational change. After transporting, substrate returns back to their original state. Okay, so basically अपने को पता ही है ये चीज़ की transport proteins होते हैं, we are having those, and they combine with substrate, they form a complex there for a time being, transient it is, and then they undergo some change so that the molecule passes through the membrane, and then after the transport they again leave that substrate and returns back to their original state. That is how these transporters work. Okay, so these are basically, they are very very specific for their for the substrate they are combining to, and they are saturable, they are saturated. If this transporter is combined with one substrate, the other cannot come, right? And then these can be competitively inhibited. Okay, and they work slower than channels because it has to go through a conformational chain and then return back to it. So this whole takes lot of time, so this is very slow than channels. Okay, channels are the gateway through which ions can pass through. Okay, and they obviously require energy. Then the second type we are having is penocytosis. Now what about it? Transport across cell by forming vesicles. Okay, so here we are forming vesicles and they are engulfing some solute substances, and then they are transporting across cell from one cell to the other cell. So the first one, carrier transport, now we are going to elaborate it even more. Okay, and it is again divided into two, facilitated diffusion and active diffusion. So we already know that facilitated diffusion mein no energy is required, concentration gradient is there, the substrate has to pass from high gradient to low gradient. Okay, Now it helps poorly diffusible substrate. Example, glucose entry into fat muscle cells by GLUT4. So GLUT4 is basically helping the entry of glucose into fat and muscle. So इसमें basically poorly diffusible substrates जो हैं जो डिफ्यूज़ कर रहे हैं पर इतना अच्छे से नहीं कर सकते हैं, उनको फैसिलिटेट कर देगा ये वाले जो ट्रांसपोर्टर्स हैं, फैसिलिटेटेड डिफ्यूजन वाले, राइट. Then the second one, the main one, active transport. Okay, so this requires energy, and metallic poisons are there. They inhibit these transporters, and gradient obviously low to high. And examples we are having is levodopa or the methyl dopa. These is it is actively absorbed from gut. Okay, so this is just an example here. And then the active transport is again divided into primary and secondary on the basis of whether energy is derived directly from ATP or some other way of obtaining that energy, right? So the primary, what happens in here, so energy by direct ATP hydrolysis, इसमें energy हमको मिलने वाली ATP को direct hydrolyze कर दिया, ठीक है. For example, transporters whose intracellular loops have ATPase. So we are having transporters जिनके अंदर intracellular loops में उनके पास ATPase enzyme है. What does ATPase enzyme do? It directly hydrolyzes ATP, and that's how we are obtaining energy, and that's how we are transporting our molecules. Okay. Then the second one, secondary transport. What in here? So basically energy to pump derived from downhill movement of another solute uh, can be symport or antiport. So what happens here is we are obtaining energy by pumping simultaneously another solute from downhill movement. Okay, so it is moving downhill, and from that energy we are going to move our substrate uphill. So that is how secondary transport works. And it can be symport or antiport. If we are having that downhill molecule symport going in the same direction, it is then symport, and if going in opposite direction, we are having antiport. Okay, so the last slide we are having is factors affecting absorption. This is very important. So what we have saw till now is transport across the membrane. So this is a very important factor which influences absorption. Obviously, it obviously influences absorption. Then the second one we are having is aqueous solubility. The solubility of the drug, it uh, it it is the rate of dissolution. Okay, so that is how, if more soluble is a drug, more it dissolves. And example, poor soluble aspirin. So aspirin is very poor soluble, so that is how its absorption will take more time, right? So aqueous solubility is a factor here. And then we are having concentration. If the drug is more concentrated, it will create more concentration gradient, and that is how its absorption will be faster. Okay, you got it, man. And then we are having area of absorption. Obviously it's so obvious that more the area of absorption, more is the rate of absorption. Okay, then we're having vascularity. More the vascularity, more the blood supply, faster is the absorption. Then we're having route of drug administration. So here obviously from different routes we can obviously see that absorption of drug is, for example, absorption of drug is faster, very faster sublingually than the orally. So that is it, friends. If you like this video, please do like, share and subscribe, and subscribe my channel Easy Dentistry, and keep studying.